Let's begin. I'd like to call this meeting of the Parks Commission to order. So to start, approval of the minutes from November 19th.
So moved.
Second. Oh, we have to do, roll call?
No.
Julie, just Julie. Okay,
Yeah.
great,
If she was online, you would.
cool. So we have a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. There are no parks usage requests for this meeting. When's the last time that happened?
Usually happens every winter.
Okay, here
Nobody
we,
wants to do anything when it's cold.
here we are. Old business, Olympian Meadows. Next month, we will have a full report from the soccer subcommittee, but Paul, I'm wondering if you wanted to just take us through.
Yeah, we met last Thursday and discussed the various options to be presented to the committee. And we've come up with a couple of recommendations for the whole committee to get involved in, because it has to be a whole committee decision on this, and then has to go. I don't know where it goes after us, if it does go any other place.
Well, I have a concern about the procedure on this whole issue, and let me explain why. From a CPA perspective, step 2 is being listened to tomorrow in front of the whole CPA committee. Park and Rec has never even approved the request that you want to do. I don't understand how it's sort of a chicken and an egg thing. I'm a little confused about how that's got set up.
Okay, well, I think that there are a couple of different issues or a couple of different things that we're talking about. This soccer subcommittee is about soccer at Olympian Meadows, not having anything to do with redoing the field or what
But
happens.
soccer is a major piece of that.
Soccer is a major piece of that, and I think that we can talk more about the CPA.
Right, but my point is, it's on the agenda.
Yep.
To be considered for $165,000. What my concern was from the CPA perspective, as I chair that, is I'm like, that's in front and everything else, but we never as a group approved it. So how does CPA?
Put the application in.
No, I understand that, Joe, but what I'm saying to you is that you can put the application, and you can do anything you want.
I
But
just don't
we-
have a letter of support.
Right, that's my whole point.
Right.
That it's sort of a chicken and an egg thing, and I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, I'm just saying it seemed a little bizarre the way it was framed.
Yes, so I think just for our conversation here right now, would we like to finish with the soccer subcommittee piece and then speak about the CPA?
Whatever you wanna do.
Okay, so Paul, was there anything more for this soccer subcommittee about what you guys got to thus far?
No, we did discuss the layout of the facility. It wasn't our charge to do it.
Right,
Our charge was to come up with some sort of procedure or protocol for people who want to make use of whatever facility we make available.
Got
That's
it.
all our charge was.
great.
Whether it's gonna be 120 by 99 yards or whatever is not part of our purview.
Yep, great. So next month, what I'd love to do, are you guys gonna meet again? Before
We
the,
haven't set a meeting.
before the next
Set
meeting?
it.
Do you guys feel like you got to a good place to present it to us to discuss further?
You could do it right now, I think.
Well, no one else has seen this but us and.
Right,
I
but we
just
could
gave a
present it
copy
to you, what we have, it's just 2 points about, how we're going to, recommend to let people and organize groups to petition us to, use the field.
Great. May I just read this to the committee and
Yeah,
then
that would-
I'll send it out afterwards. So number 1, a group may petition the Parks Commission for use of the field for a specific block of time by completing a facility use form, providing proof of liability insurance, and by providing the names of primary contacts. At least one of the primary contacts must be a resident of the town of Great Barrington. That's number 1. And number 2, a member of an official league team may petition the Parks Commission for use of the field as a practice and or game site by completing a facility use form, providing proof of liability insurance, a copy of the team's practice and league schedule, and by providing the names of primary contacts, at least one of whom must be a resident of the town of Great Barrington. There's one addition that I wanted to suggest, which is practice and league schedule, but also we need rules and regulations for
So
league.
that's
play.
what
Oh,
the
yeah, this-
addition is.
Great. The addition, the contact must provide the Parks Commission with a copy of the league bylaws and league structure, including rules and regulations.
Is there any request for a census of people within the framework, other than the contact people?
I think in general, one of the things that we were talking about is collecting census information for all groups. So I think that that should be included on the form. Does that sound good?
Yeah, we talked about that.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I think this is fine. Why not just make this not for soccer, but for any organized?
Well, that's,
sport?
that,
It's
I'm
what we
just
do
gonna,
anyways.
It's-
just gonna
Yeah,
mention
yeah.
that, cause that came up when we were talking about the league, and we suddenly said, wait a minute, the Millers don't do that.
Right.
So we talked about, and that's why we would bring it to the commission to include any group that wants to use our facilities that's member of a league. That
Why
would
would
include
you
the
use
Millers,
facilities
Babe Ruth
request?
League, all those leagues. So
Why
we
would you
thought,
use a park request?
Well,
What's the difference between a facilities request form and a parks request?
Is there two different forms?
the facilities request form doesn't exist
That's
yet.
what I'm saying.
Oh.
My point is it doesn't exist, but I think it's duplicative in the sense of information requested.
So, but it sounds like potentially some additional pieces of information could be added to the parks request form that would make
Absolutely.
it relevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it should go through the parks usage requests,
Thank you.
I
Yes,
believe. right.
everybody's okay with that?
That's what we were thinking, right?
Say, can you say that?
Otherwise, you're reinventing the wheel.
Reinventing the
We already have this form that's been in place for
Long time.
whatever number of years.
Great, so just,
And if
so,
we just gotta tweak it, we tweak it.
great, so for that addition to the parks usage request form, what are the pieces that we're looking for? I believe we already are asking for demographic information, census information on the new form. Not on the new one, so we're already asking for like who's using it, where they're from. Is there anything else that we would like to ask for on the parks usage request?
I don't know that we asked that one be a resident of Great Barrington. We should probably put that on there if that's the case.
Well,
It's not a bad thing.
that was what came up in our little discussion is we didn't want to make that a requirement without talking and seeing what everyone thinks about just in general park usage request forms. Should they be made by members? of-
Well,
Yes.
one of our concerns was is like, what if a team, an organization from Lee came down and say, hey, we wanna use your field, you
Well,
know? So
it's-
we're
it's
trying to
happened
figure
in
out
the
how to
past.
make it,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hold on one second, Bill and then Tom?
So the census thing, I'm curious about this, but if you're gonna do something like that, why don't we create just a quick form that coach or the person in charge can hand out to everybody, so there's some consistency within the form, but it has name, address,
Can you do that?
age, whatever.
So, well, one of the things that Joe and I spoke about, but hasn't come all the way to fruition is like a feedback form that happens after usage that could request census information, who actually showed up to use the field, right? You wouldn't put that in, I mean, on our parks usage request, it already says, who are you expecting? And so somebody says 250 to 300 people, but I'm curious how many people actually showed up after the event or after team play. So, and also things like, because something that has come up is like, after using the Whoosy Dome, any notes for next year should be given back to us after they've used it, so that the following year, we have some background information about what happened. Karen?
I think it's important that, I mean, I don't think every time this group or any of them, that we need a census for everybody. But what I think is important is if the league comes to us and says, or a group says, we're gonna use this, we're gonna use it every Sunday for 3 hours and whatever. Great, we want a list of your participants. Who they are, what contact information, what town they're at.
Yes.
Just so we have some, I think it helps to what Joe was talking about. And also, if and when there's ever a situation that you need facts, you have at least have a way to get them.
Yes, what, tell me in your mind what the difference between what you just suggested and a census, like, what are you thinking about it as far as
Well,
differences?
I wouldn't want to do it for every time they did it, but if they start at the start of the season.
Oh, like, in general,
Yeah, I'm thinking of school. What the hell's it called when you? An attendance sheet. Keep it simple. That's what we're looking at, right?
okay,
Yeah, but so like you're saying, do it at the beginning and the end. Because, you're always gonna get a lot more people interested at the beginning and to have a number at the end, that will also
I
seem.
think the sheer number is very important. If you start with 100, you may only end up with 60.
That's
You
right.
may not need the names and all the addresses and all that shit, but at least you have some relative number, yeah.
And
Yes,
it also tells you how popular that event was.
Right,
and I think that for our use, we're curious about where people are coming from.
damn right.
And we're also curious about the volume and how close to their expectations the volume really is. So if they're coming here asking because they're gonna have 100 kids and they only have 12, we would like to know that for the future. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So I think that this is a really great start. Thank you guys for getting this far. What I'd like to do is make some changes, some potential additions to the parks usage request, and also a feedback form to send out after groups have used the field. One of the things that we've been talking about is like liability for teams that are here for like crossover multiple seasons, like they need to send us a new liability form. So Kara's already trying to figure out how to keep in contact with people. And I think that this is a good way for us to keep in touch with how things are going. Any other comments, feedback about this?
I
Good.
just,
Yes.
so I see these 2 points. This second one is about an official league,
Mhm.
which is pretty straightforward for what we're trying to do here.
Mhm.
But the first one is like a group made petition, I would consider that but like being pickup soccer.
Uh-huh.
Like, we wanna have soccer open, for people, and we basically invite people to come join us, right?
Mhm.
But that, I don't see how that kind of arrangement, other than having, some responsible people, how that's gonna necessarily have you wanna have the list of participants. Could be, because that could be very fluid. It could be from one, whoever's in town, or my brother showed up this week and,
Great.
that's pickup as opposed to more organized.
Thank you,
So-
Tom. I think that's super helpful. One of the things that has come up is that for pickleball, anyone using the Hoosie Dome for pickleball signs a pickleball waiver.
Yep.
And this is just my opinion, but I think that should be an option for soccer pickup. Because I think that the town needs to have a waiver of liability for anyone who is coming.
Here's the other problem. If you have a pickup game, they're not gonna have liability.
Right.
insurance.
And that's-
Exactly.
What that has to happen, I think the trade-off is that if you wanna have a pickup game on Saturdays at 5:30, we need a census. We need to know who's here, period.
If they do a waiver, then we know who's here.
So how are you gonna get that though?
Then it becomes a town program and it's under the town's liability.
Wait a minute, you're looking for a waiver for a pickup game.
I think. You think it's
What
about.
about all the kids that just stop at Hoosie and play basketball down in the park?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
that
pickup
gets to
game
be-
is people just using our parks.
But
Right.
it's not, but that when people are using the basketball courts and nobody's doing anything, they're not requesting it ahead of time, they're not blocking it out on the
Obstruction.
schedule.
Oh, so you're saying for a request for a pickup game?
Correct.
Yeah, for a
Like-
slot, a structured slot.
Like pickleball, you don't know weeks ahead of time who's gonna be there on such and such a day, but you know that everyone who has a slotted spot has a waiver on file.
We do, because we have a team reach app that we know. I mean, I can look at Friday, I can tell you who's gonna be there.
Right, so what about, and I.
But we gotta find a way to make it and, be able to cover, the fluidity of various people showing up.
Simple too.
So.
Are you-
What are we
You don't have-
doing
you don't
now?
have-
Hold on, guys, one at a time, just because it's too much for me. So, I think that I'm wondering about the possibility of creating a QR code that's down there at the field that people can look at their phone and just sign it out in the phone. It's gonna take a while. It's not like gonna happen tomorrow, but maybe by the spring it could happen. It is a way that we have people's names, contact information, and a signature that would be available to the town to hold. I assume that the town is holding the pickleball waivers or you are on the reach app.
No, they are kept separately.
In
With
the
Karen,
office,
yeah,
okay.
once they're processed, that's where they sit.
Okay.
There's probably 80 of them now, by the way.
So like that, if it was something that came up on a phone that somebody could sign on their phone and then it got sent to Kara, that would be a way that we could collect both census data and have a signature on file that waives liability.
I think if you can get to that point with that sort of technology, that would go a long way for everything that we have. It's a way to track people.
Okay, I'm gonna work
It's
on
a
that.
data retract.
I'm gonna work on that.
Setting up a
With the
Q,
QR, I'm not that familiar with, other than you see them all over the place.
Yeah,
setting up a QR code
Would
is
you
not
have
hard.
to sign in every single time you go down to play?
no. Once you
Not
have
necessarily.
once you have a
Or
waiver
you
on
could do
file.
it that way, and then that's your way of tracking people too.
We could do that way if somebody wants to take responsibility that way, but I think at first,
You don't want
Big
like,
steps.
like for me in my business, I have to have a waiver on file for everyone walking in the door,
Right.
whether they're there for a movement class or they're just there to use the studio. But once I have it on file, I don't ever need you to do it again unless something has changed.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. I think the
And
QR code, that's a great idea and it's not very hard to set that up.
Can you help consult with me on how that might happen?
Yeah,
Okay,
The one thing I would suggest is that we have this in both English and Spanish.
absolutely.
oh, absolutely, without a doubt.
What are we doing now with the men's pickup group? Are they all signing a form?
My understanding is Mr. Jordan, according to my understanding, and I may be wrong, I think they all have sign waivers. But if they haven't, we can easily, we can take the pickleball form and cross out pickleball and put in basketball. It's pretty simple.
Okay,
mean-
but as of right now,
I cannot answer,
I think he has some liability insurance.
He definitely has liability insurance. I don't know if the
He's doing waivers. for
players
people.
have.
I
signed
do
it.
not think he's doing waivers, but I'll tell you what, it would not be a hard thing to do. All I gotta do is call him and say, Tom, here's a form, have you guys fill it out and we'll keep it on file.
Just for curiosity, they don't need both. If they have insurance, they don't need waivers.
Correct.
Well, for us, they don't need both, but if I was running a business,
Agreed,
then
Right.
I would want
Right.
waivers, right?
right.
But that would be for them, not
Yeah,
not necessarily.
exactly.
for us.
so what we're trying to apply, talking about applying to soccer, we are going to apply it to everybody
Yes,
who makes use of our facilities, whether they're playing pickleball, whether they're
Baseball,
playing men's basketball and soccer or whatever, we're going to apply the same procedures to everybody, period.
Right,
yes,
the council is, if they have liability insurance, you don't need the waivers. You don't need the waivers.
okay,
yes,
It makes it simple
so the
that way.
the waivers in it, if there's no insurance involved.
Right,
But there's cases where pickup soccer, for instance, probably wouldn't be people, that wouldn't have liability insurance, like.
absolutely not.
but just to mention another situation, we got a phone call in the middle of the week, last week or 2 weeks ago about someone wanting to use the Hoosie Dome like for 10 minutes, to do a little bit of filming, and Mark and I approved it, but also we didn't want them using the building without having anything liability wise from them. So, like that waiver is the way to allow someone into that room.
So that was legit,
That was legit.
'cause I was happened to be there the day they were setting up.
That was legit.
What's going on?
I don't remember that in any of our meetings.
We have waivers on file. So, for
Well,
whatever
I
that's,
know
didn't
that
pop them
when-
out then, huh?
it's a good thing.
when we play at the field house. And we sign up for our sessions, which I did tonight, we have to sign the waiver.
Yeah.
It's just very easy, it's on your phone, you got your email and you just go through, check all the boxes. And they have it, for who you are, for all the participants for each session.
Great.
The one thing about this is that you're used to doing that at the field house.
Right.
So
Okay, we're
we have to be-
paying.
we have to
to
be
use
very clear about what we're gonna be expecting from people, because this is a new thing that we're gonna be
Totally.
doing. And this is something that we're really gonna have to educate people on.
Absolutely. So long runway. Okay, we've got all winter and
Yeah.
into spring, and also like anything will be better than nothing. So we'll work on it. Okay,
It'll be an experiment,
it'll be an experiment.
but I
Excellent.
do think the QR code is a great idea.
Great.
But it's not gonna affect a lot of our sports. It's not gonna affect Little League or girls softball, they have insurance and they can move on.
Yeah.
And they've been providing Joe with their data
Right,
anyways.
We could actually just say this is gonna be for adult,
I was just gonna
adult
say,
play. You know, the
Adults.
Millers, the adult soccer down at Olympian Meadows. We could just say that this is gonna, because if it's a kids' games, then usually it's an organized thing that has some kind of insurance.
But I think the Millers have insurance. already.
Yes, they do.
So we wouldn't
Well,
want,
I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, an adult activity.
we're not that big that we can't figure out whether it's adult or kid, and if they have insurance or not, I think we just take it as things pop up, we can deal with it.
Great, but I think that this is good progress for us. So Carolyn, Julie just arrived, just so you have for our record. I think this is good progress. I'm gonna work on the QR code and we're gonna bring it back to the next meeting. Sound good? Pretty good with that?
Right.
Okay, moving on, CPA. Karen, you wanna restart that conversation that we were just having?
Okay. Joe made a presentation to CPA about the soccer field. I was somewhat taken aback because I had not heard of it. I mean, he can bring up anything he wants, I'm not saying he can't, but I certainly hadn't heard this form. I did. So we're gonna be dealing with that tomorrow and Wednesday. I certainly need this committee to discuss it and flush it out one way or the other and whatever before it comes in front of CPA.
Great,
I think that's a fair statement.
well, one of the other things you required before I joined that group was that somewhere in the minutes. you
Right, it
required-
reflects.
It reflects that you require that of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right,
When I heard about it the last meeting, I had no idea what.
that's kind of what my problem is that.
Yeah, at all, so I would
required
like to,
the
maybe
board
Joe can
to
present
before it
what
comes
his,
To CPA.
you know, how, cause we did talk about doing stuff there, but we don't know what,
great.
none of us know what it is.
So the CPA deadline was coming up on us for the step one application and you
Mhm.
guys didn't have a meeting
Right,
to get a vote. So
So, yeah, so
everybody was speaking that they wanted to do this, so I put an application together.
so that we didn't lose the opportunity
What
to
do we
have this
gotta do to
conversation.
approve it? Just
So
send you a letter
What are we asking
by
for?
Yeah,
tomorrow?
hold on 1 second, one at a time, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, so what do we gotta do to back up what's been, already
present,
put in, present?
Well, Joe has requested a letter from the Parks Commission in support of these two CPA requests, actually. So one is the soccer field and one is the parks equipment. And if we are all as a committee in support of it, a letter saying that we have approved this and that we are requesting it.
I'll make that a motion that we do the
Wait,
letter.
I would like to split this into two things,
Great,
and I would like him to explain exactly what, because from my perspective as chair, you're asking for $165,000. I need to know what, why, when, how, and who,
Mhm.
yep,
and all of you guys need to back that up, so we do it right.
great,
That's
so
all.
one at a time. So I mean,
I would do the soccer field first and then do the.
great, so first we make a motion and then we discuss it, please, would you please?
Make a motion that we support the CPA request for the soccer field.
A second?
Second.
Okay, discussion about this.
Can Joe present what he presented? Or what's he gonna
So
present?
we're in the initial step one, it was called the soccer field. And step two, I changed it to a multi-purpose field. And what's being requested is construction dollars to create a high school size field that doesn't impact much of the walkway. The softball field is to remain in some context so that we don't lose the softball field there. Whatever we do with, grades, just so like soccer ball rolling over, doesn't bounce all over the place and we do something safe with the bases. So the construction money will be to, pull up the existing sod, grade it and reseed it or sod it.
Okay, and that $165,000 would be the amount,
The intended amounts and estimate.
the intended amount. Questions for Joe?
And you all
Paul, and
have
then
received
Jill.
that application.
Joe, if we wanna make a full-size soccer field down there, high school is the same as a regulation field anyway. How can we do that without impacting the so-called walkway, et cetera? I mean, there's not enough room down there.
So there is a size, was it the NCAA or something?
Right.
Size field or whatever. It was in the packet, it had all three sizes shown. And that one went not impacted 100+ feet of the walkway and went into the buffer zone. Which,
So we all understand that that's not what we're
I
talking
mean, you're
about.
talking $500,000.
So when we're talking about $165,000 and we're talking about very little impact on the walkway, what are we discussing? What's the plan?
That's a high school size.
It is,
Correct.
it's I think on the plan, they call it like a maximum high school size or something,
Yeah.
minimum high school size.
Hmm.
Which is basically what you have there, but a little bit bigger.
And
I
a
think
little
we-
bit more, like a little bit safer or like, organized.
Right, yes, so, being multi-purpose, we could put corner posts and stuff like that. I don't think football uses it for like a regulation play or anything, they
don't.
just use it to practice.
So
Right, so I don't think you're, at this point anyway, you're too concerned about that, so if we put corner posts up or whatever. I think it's fine,
Okay.
I think that may have to change in the future if they decide something different.
Julie, you had a question and then
Did I?
Paul again and then Bill? Julie, did you? Or did I?
No, but I can ask a few questions if you don't mind. So is 165 just going to the restarting and the posts?
Well, the plan would be to go down there, survey and engineering will take it out of the regular buildings and grounds budget. And then we'll have to put it out to bid. And then construct it, so it's not just construction dollars,
Mm.
construction oversight, things like that too.
I just feel like, are we ready for this, or do we actually need this kind of huge outlay of money for a soccer field? I feel like a lot of people have started using it frequently and it's fine as it is. I'm not sure, do we? I mean, I'm asking, is it really necessary?
Okay, great. Paul and then Bill?
when you say regulation field, if I remember correctly, it's been a while, the rule book sets a minimum and a maximum size
Right.
Right.
of the field. So when you say regulation, there is no such thing as a regulation field as long as it meets minimum requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, the minimum requirement in length is 100 yards by 55, which is small.
Is
The
it-
high school field uses the entire length of the field, which includes the end zones of the height of the football field. So it's 120 yards long, and the width has varied over the years, but it's probably about 70 yards wide. So I need to know what it is that we can do down there that would allow us to accommodate. I think we can accommodate the minimum, but I don't know if we can go much bigger than the
I
minimum.
don't think he can, and I think that Joe's going to get, in the CPA application, there's a sheet that has the three boxes. It has the NCAA, which is just nowhere, cannot be done because it takes too much of the pathway. Then the mid-range, I think, is the least impact, and I think he's going to get that right now, I think.
These were presented to us,
I am,
I believe.
but understand from my perspective, Tom, I hear you, but I'm sitting at CPA and people are going,
Right.
what's this about? And I'm
Right.
like.
No, you have to be able to present to them.
Yeah,
Bill?
So I had somebody ask me, and I could not answer this question. How many soccer fields are up at the high school?
3,
So why, so there's a practice field up there?
the main field, the stadium field so-called, is where the varsity games, boys and girls are played, not used for practice. The 2 fields beyond that, the one below the hill, which is on the old JV baseball field, is used for practice for the boys and for JV boys games.
Right.
The other field, which is on the so-called new baseball field, is used as a girls' practice field and for JV girls. Those are the three regulation fields that we have up there that are both sides. They're above the minimum, but they are, except for the main field, are below the maximum because they're not ruled. So those are the three fields that are up there. Now, if you wanna go over to by where the tennis courts are, there's another field that's been built over there that the youth team has used. However, they didn't use it this year because 2 years ago, they created a brand new JV softball field and put in a skin infield, which had not been there before. So I don't know what they use that for anymore, to be honest with you, except for softball. So they moved the youth soccer over to the middle school, I believe, and over to the elementary school, as well as on Saturday, then they use whatever they can find.
Yeah.
Well, the 5-6 teams used to use to put the tennis behind the tennis courts.
Right.
Now we have to share with Lee. Our home field, the Berkshire Hills home field for 5-6 is the Lee field.
Why?
We don't. have
Because
enough
we don't
fields.
have one. And now Lee soccer youth is gearing up again, so Lee will be using, so really the 5-6 does not have.
Ups and downs, yeah.
They don't.
No, because the Du Bois field is not, it's not really set up to be a soccer.
If you'll notice on this drawing, there are 3 boxes. There's a minimum. Okay, it says max U12, minimum high school, preferred NCAA dimensions. The preferred NCAA dimensions are not in the discussion. Because the encroachment is much too big. For the one we're looking at, I believe, Bill, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, which I'm sure you will, is the minimum high school field. Is that the one? Yes.
Right, so I agree, I remember that from before, and I think we as a committee. Suggested that was what, at earlier meetings, that was the way for us to
The
go.
minimum high school.
Minimum high school,
Right.
correct. You know, so as you can see, it does impact. In this drawing, the part of the walkway.
But I think on this drawing too, just so we're clear, I think it can all shift towards the Little League field a
It
little bit
can
more.
move towards Route 7.
Okay, so it's, you know, I'd have to guess by the scale here, but it looks like it's 15 or 20 feet off the Little League fence right now, so we could probably get into that 10 or so feet.
But that's one of the reasons why engineering
Is huge.
is necessary for this project is,
Which we have a fair amount done, all the grading and stuff is done.
okay.
So one thing, can I make it, or ask something? One thing that I see, and when I've been getting feedback from people playing down there is. The goal is to keep the practice softball field an active part of this. And one of the problems with, as you can see, it runs across, you know, one of the suggestions I thought would be to reorient that softball field. So the foul lines that are on the softball field match the end zone and the sideline of the soccer field. That would take some, probably having to move some backstops or
I don't
something.
think we're looking to involve the commission in the engineering.
Pardon?
I don't think we're looking to involve the commission in engineering. We're gonna have our engineer lay this out.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that
Your
make it,
thoughts is- Your
so-
thoughts, this is to get the money, Tom. So
Okay.
we're not getting into the detail here.
all right, okay,
You understand what he's saying to you?
pardon?
Yeah.
Are you clear as to what the point of all this is? We understand from a perspective that to maximize the use of the space down there for softball, for football, and for soccer, that when the engineering is done, that will be the primary concern of Joe and the project manager.
Right.
So I think we don't need to get into those weeds.
Okay,
So,
So
go ahead, please.
so the funds, the CPA funded money is available for the purposes of the CPA committee. Okay, and if you looked at the application, we checked the boxes on open space and recreation and things like that. If we, as a town, and you as commissioners have spoken loud and clear that you wanted this in the past. If we don't put an application in, this money goes somewhere else,
Right.
to even someone other than the town. So I'm trying to grab all this money we can for
So-
the town projects.
So we need to make a motion tonight? What do we need to
There's a
approve?
motion on the table. Wanna
Which
say it again?
was, yeah, can you repeat that again?
Is to ask and send a letter of support for the request to CPA for $165,000 for the soccer field. I wanna reiterate.
Multi-purpose field.
Right.
Multi-purpose field,
I
right.
wanna reiterate what Julie has asked, because that is gonna come back to bite some situation. Is this an appropriate ask for the amount of money for what needs to be done? And if you guys as a commission feel that it is, go forth with great joy, boys and girls. But what I'm telling you is there may be some blowback on it.
So can I ask you, Karen, it sounds like you're not sure.
I would suggest that right at this point, I would abstain from this because I'm not. I also have to tell you, from my perspective, there were 14 projects for CPA.
Mhm.
As of tomorrow, we only have 9. 5 have fallen by the wayside. Okay, so that's good. There's also a request of $1.8 million from CPA. And we only have approximately 800,000 to give out. So what I'm telling you, boys and girls, is the wallet is not as deep as we want. So I'm trying to wear 2 hats.
Yes, right.
Okay, and I'm giving you,
Jam,
what?
without getting
Well,
in a
but that's,
jam.
right, that
I'm
is,
trying to be honest.
absolutely.
The thing is, it's, you know, at some point. This Parks Commission wants certain things done.
Right.
Okay, and it's either gonna be funded like this through a grant or out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Right,
This is
remember,
one
we had
way-
our budget cut by how many thousand last year?
A
Right.
third.
Third.
So, you know, it's not like this still impacts the taxpayer's budget, but it's money that's going
A lot
into a
of
fund.
friends.
And
Correct.
supporting the taxpayers.
It's also matched at about a 40% rate by the state.
So, Steve had a question or something to say?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
So I would say this, one of the things that I think the CPC and the town expectations are, is that more town projects are funded.
Correct.
I think last year there were a couple town projects not funded, which I think was unfortunate. I think that as opposed to private developers, I think town projects should come first. And whether I support this one or not, and Karen's wearing 2 hats, I'm wearing 3. I will vote on this, and we'll see how I go with, I wanna see, what you wanna do is look at all of them first.
Yeah.
And then decide, but I think the town project should get top priority.
Great, thank you.
Can I-
I'd like to hear from everyone, actually,
Yeah.
if
think it's
everybody's good
important.
with that. I think that this piece is really important, which is that this is about taking the next step, but we know that there's likely to be more done. So can we just hear from everyone about this specifically, and then I think we should vote.
I think it's important to understand how much we're asking for the other parks project in comparison to this. because I-
107.
107 for the
Correct.
separately, so
That's
these
for
are
the
2.
equipment. Yeah.
So does the equipment just include equipment for any parks that we work on generally,
Or
or?
there's a specific list of what Joe wants to do. There's bleachers and some other stuff. That's a
The
different,
next question.
that's the next question. I appreciate your global look, but I think that we gotta sort of stay in the lane here for now. I hear you.
Yeah.
Understand that CPA has certain parameters that we need to give out X amount of dollars, okay? We have approximately 800, we have to give out, and I'm not even taking into account the bond at Memorial Field, okay? That's already
Mhm.
coming out. But I think that, I appreciate what you're asking. But Joe's point and Steve's point, and I will echo that. Town projects should come first. I am done doing private developers. I want the town to get what we do because that's what CPA was designed for. It's not to support all the private developers in town.
I
Can you
absolutely,
explain that?
yeah, hold on, I'm sorry, Bill, I just wanted to say that I totally agree with Steve that the town projects should be funded.
Yeah.
But I also agree with you that I think this might be a really hard sell at town meeting, a soccer field.
Wait,
I-
hold on, just
Yeah.
to ask your question, a hard sell at town meeting means we better go to CPA for funding because it won't get funded at town meeting, if I'm understanding this
But doesn't
correctly.
CPA get
Correct you.
approved?
CPA has-
CPA has to be voted on.
Yes,
Okay,
CPA has to be
okay, great.
approved at town meeting.
Oh,
And I just,
But through CPA.
Yes,
through
Not
CPA,
through town budget
Yes,
separate, okay.
but even through CPA, I
Yeah.
remember that we have to
Yeah.
vote on that. And I just feel like a soccer field in the public's imagination is just like a flat
It's
field.
not a soccer field.
Multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose field, I think you're gonna really have to sell that.
Well, let me explain from a perspective, I've been on CPA since it incepted, okay?
Yeah.
It's always a sales job, and it's always because we need it and we use it, and the thing that has happened, and I don't care what happened with the soccer shit.
Right.
We need the facility because we don't got enough of them, we don't have enough open space
Okay.
places.
Fine,
And
yeah,
I think we
okay.
can sell this, I really
Okay,
do.
because I just feel if there are other projects for Parks and Rec that I personally feel like are just a priority over the soccer field. Correct me if I'm totally wrong on
There's
this,
nothing else in
but I
front
just
except
feel
for
like,
equipment, that's it.
but can that equipment funding go towards something like Dewey Park?
No,
That's the thing, because I think that area is like sorely in need of
Well,
some kind of
I
park.
think we all have our
Yeah.
own thing, but we gotta stay where we're at.
yeah.
I know,
so-
but that's
so
why I'm
let's-
saying
so
that
let's- this is the time for everyone to
Yeah.
just share their own
Yeah.
their own opinion and their own experience, and I think, you wanna say anything more about yours,
I
cause
just
I'm hearing you.
Right, I just think it's, I think what would resonate with people is the fact that we would request something from CPC to go towards a new park. Where in a place that is needed, a new park, like a Dewey Park.
So
Yeah.
we're not having a conversation about this
That's,
particular
that
thing
is
right now.
that is
Yeah.
my feeling, that I feel like this versus the proposal for a new park, a new engineering for a new park space in an area that has nothing really.
Right, so
like the
we're gonna just go around and then we can address all of these concerns. I think one thing that stands out for me about this, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's too late to go to CPA for this year for Dewey. So this is not a matter of
Okay.
for the soccer field or for Dewey.
Yeah.
It is soccer field or, multi-use field or not multi-use field,
Correct.
right? So just to clarify that for this particular conversation.
Mhm.
Okay, Bill, for you?
Okay, so just to get some clarity.
Yep,
So this month, the $800,000 is gonna get,
spent.
has to get spent somehow in town. That's money that's gonna go to projects. And there are town projects and private projects that have been.
Private
done-
developers are coming under the three auspices, you can request money from CPA for three reasons. Open space. Okay, affordable housing. And historic preservation,
Okay,
okay? There are developers that are asking for money. None of which I'm going to vote for, but. That fall into those categories.
right.
And they have all been approved for step one. Step one basically is a checklist. Do you meet the criteria for CPA funding? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. 14 projects got approved, 9 have coming at step 2. 5 went by the wayside for numerous reasons, which I won't go into at this point. It's not cogent. So for a long time, there have been people, Ian Roush across the street, that got CPA money, okay? Craig Barnum got money for the Cove roof. That's a private deal, okay? There are other people who've asked for private money. But people who are on the committee, normally their bent is affordable housing and now town project. Joe came last year for the library, for clamshell and the sconces. It's up again this year. I will bet everything I own that will be funded fully. Because it's town stuff.
Cool.
So I'm going along with what Julie says about just being conscious of money and. You know, I don't know what goes on at the high school, and I don't think that I got a really great answer on that. But is there some way that we could look at what we already have, reschedule things so that there's more space up at the high school? Or that, and it's okay, I'm just curious about that because it was asked of me and I just want clarity on that.
Right.
But beyond that, I've always supported this.
so. Can we answer that?
So the high school is not the town, it's a school, it's a school.
Can I just, so with the high school is one person, part of his job is just to do facilities. and just schedule that. So if a group wanted to do pickup soccer, there's policies in place and they would have to go and request
Right.
it. Realize that those fields get a lot of use during the season and some of those fields need to rest. And the priority for the school is youth soccer. So,
Well, the priority
Between-
for the school is first, school program.
no, it's second,
Yeah.
right, priority. So first priority is high school groups, second is youth.
Sure.
If those fields still have some lifespan to them without needing a rest, I'm sure they would consider it. I don't know if that exists or not, so it would be something that Steve Soul would handle.
And Steve,
Sure.
can I ask you one more question, which is
course.
just in light of the high school, the next steps of the high school project, that also adds an additional unknown factor to any use of
Huge.
any town.
The youth field that would get lost temporarily in that project would be the front practice field,
Okay,
The Route
Not
7 field?
Route 7.
Okay.
okay,
Um,
good to know.
but mainly because that's where the geothermal, which we haven't voted on geothermal. If we use geothermal, that's where that would go before, and then once it's in there, the field would come back. If we had voted on the other field in the parking lot, we would have lost that field for 4 years while it was parking and whatever.
Okay, all right, cool. Thanks, Bill.
I'm favor, I would be in favor of the multi-use, minimum high school field proposal that's being presented. I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you. Sridevi?
I'm supportive of it, but are we gonna move that walkway? Does that, when you say it's minimal impact, what does that mean?
We're gonna probably have to move a piece of it. But I don't think we're gonna have to go into the uncleared area.
Right.
I think where the walkway is, there's some area that's cleared between that and the tree line.
Okay.
So hopefully we could just work around it.
And again, that's an engineering question that we would need to address before moving on with the project. We would, of course, approve the,
Just so you know, it's sensitive down there because that whole area is floodplain
Sure.
and it needs a conservation permit, so you can't really raise the elevation. You could lower it a little bit, but you can't turn around and add more soils to,
Compensatory storage. and
right,
all
where you have to
that
create
crap.
compensatory storage, which will create all kinds
Oh,
of
my God.
cost effects. So, but he would be to stay kind of at the elevation it is, to just level it up.
Yeah, and my only other comment would be, if we're creating this really nice new field, do we have the parking? If everyone is using the field,
We have a lot.
the parking. I mean, it's just, it's so tight down there, so like, we create a nice field, but.
With
There's
all due
baseball,
respect, if that was engineered right,
yeah,
you could get parking in there. There's a lot of wasted space.
okay, that was just a.
Especially if you go all the way down to the other end.
well, that would be great. So maybe that's part of our
I think
question for,
we mention that to the people that do the design and say, we
It's
need to
essential.
do parking, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very tight
So that's
space.
next step.
next time.
Right.
Okay, Paul?
Just want to clear something up before I give my opinion here. People talk about CPA money, taxpayer money, well, everybody understands CPA money, a good chunk of it comes from the taxpayer.
Yes.
Okay, so we're still talking about whether it's CPA money or out of the town meeting vote on an article, it's still taxpayer money.
Yes.
The second thing is that I'm gonna be very honest here, and I'm probably gonna be, thrown to the wolves. I don't think you need that girls softball field, because I don't think there's enough girls playing softball to justify that field. That we have a main field, and I don't see any reason, and the same thing would apply to Little League, because there's not that many, they don't even use the minor league field anymore, from what I can see. So I think we need to have a study of that entire facility down there and maybe a redesign. That isn't gonna happen in the near future. So I would have to support this soccer field concept.
Great. Thank you so much. Steve?
Whole bunch of things, some of which are germane, some aren't, so in a minute. Julie, I agree with you about we're not ready for doing that, and we have to have another neighbors meeting, and the neighbors all said they wanted it like it was, so I think that's for next year. As far as taxpayers' money, you're right, but if we don't ask for 160 from the taxpayers and ask from CPA, that CPA money is gonna be spent one way or another.
Right.
So it's an additional 160 if we ask for it out of the taxpayers, is all I'm saying.
Yep.
So that's, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm trying not to have two 160,000 projects.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean whether I support that or not. I do think there are problems down here that are gonna come along with this. Security is one of them.
Mhm.
I don't wanna do $160,000 field and have some person drive over it and ruin the field.
Have you been down there recently?
No, I know you put.
They can't get there anymore.
It looks like.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, the other thing is they can walk there and do it, cause I just know how much trouble we've had down there with that. The high school, as far as the use of that, I think, that's a question for Steve Soul before we maybe spend the 160, is how much extra time do they have on there? And, and can this field be used for youth fifth and sixth? Why not? If there's no other place to play, or even if there was, why can't they use it?
Great, good.
I'm good.
The $800,000 CPA money is money that's gonna be spent on something. So I'm totally in agreement that let's throw our hat into the ring and continue on with this multi-purpose field.
Thank you.
Is there a limit to how long we have this money to spend, or like can it just sit for years and then
No,
until?
no, 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 there's parameters about what needs to be done, and you have to give updates about what's going on, and it's all.
There was a little bit of a schedule that was put in the
Yeah.
application.
Julie, I'll be glad to off topic, sit down and give you a background in CPA for an hour, so, because there's a lot of stuff you're asking that is more global about the whole idea of what it does and how it works.
I think
I think that, it is taxpayer money, but the one thing that happens with CPA money is we get a match from the state, and it can be from 25 to 55%. So it's sort of like saying, do you want to start and have an IRA? And we're gonna match it by 30%. It's like 30% interest, so it is taxpayer money. However, there is a match coming from the state, which is also taxpayer money, but it's all of the taxpayers, and it's all based on criteria about that things match. My concerns are that people respect that space down there. Because I don't think it has had the respect, but I think from our perspective, I think we need to manage it a hell of a lot better. And if we're gonna put that amount of money into it, we better have a plan over the goddamn winter about how we're gonna manage that space. That's what I think.
Karen, do you know how much the state has contributed out of their promises over the years to the CPA fund?
Million to Great Barrington.
No, to Great Barrington alone?
Millions of dollars. If I looked at the total number, and I'd have to go pull the thing, but I've gotta say that the state has given us $3 to $4 million in matches for CPA over the time we've done. We were one of the first communities in. We also were a 3% community, meaning that we take the highest level, and there are 3 rounds of funding, so Great Barrington always gets, we're in all 3 of them, so we have done a great job. I mean, the Sheffield's like, oh, we should get into CPA this year. I'm like, you guys are really late to the party. I've had people call, will you please come and explain to our town why it's a good idea to do CPA? I'm like, no. Why am I gonna come and
For a consultation.
and take more money out of our pocket? Forget it. No, I'm not gonna do it. You do your own homework.
So just in the interest of time, I think that I would love to take a vote on this. I would just want to share, one thought of mine, which is that as far as I remember from the first CPA meeting, the committee asked for a tiered phased approach to this. Any plans for that?
Based on all the money was gonna be spent.
Like, of how the money was gonna be spent?
Could we do it in phases, is what they're gonna say. But I think that you may wanna say,
Yeah.
just,
off the record.
I'm winging it here. Is that this type of, I'm on the both town record. That we may, that this is not a project that can be phased, it needs to be done in total. You know what I mean?
Oh, you mean the only fund piece of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
One of the questions may be that if we couldn't fund the whole thing, what would you do if we?
If we
needed
gave you
that
hundred and forty or hundred and thirty, how would that fly?
Or 75?
Yeah,
yeah, well. This will come up a little bit later when we talk about the budget. If. We seen, the decision was made, the next park we're going after is a skate park.
Mhm.
And we seen the numbers of a couple $1 million.
Ugh.
So the town never gonna fund that is.
In a phased way.
Right, so that's why I have a line item in the budget requesting some money to be put into account, kind of like we buy fire trucks.
Yeah.
And just kind of set it aside.
Yeah.
So when it's time to do the project or get a grant, we have some money to match it. Now that could be done, that's how you could phase this. You could say, hey, we're gonna give you half the money this year, come back to us next year for the half of the money, and you do the construction next fall.
but the other problem is CPA will not burden the next year's committee with a promise.
No, but you don't have to promise it either.
It's like a promissory note.
Yeah.
But I mean, part of the thing that's really funny about that is that Memorial Field is all set up on that whole thing.
Right.
When we said we're gonna bond it for 10 years, that's what happened.
Okay, so, just my opinion is just that it feels like engineering down there has to happen before we do any construction, obviously. And that's the first piece of money.
Which we spent a fair amount of that already.
Okay,
And that's not this money.
Okay.
anyways.
Right.
great.
The biggest hurdle we have is permitting, but.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
just-
I would like you to call the vote because I think we're at that point.
great. All in favor of supporting this, high school minimum soccer field at multi-use,
Multi.
thank you. All in favor of funding this high school minimum multi-use field at Olympian Meadows? All opposed? Abstention? Okay, it is unanimous.
Take care, get that letter out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask Kara to get a letter to you. Are you written?
No, I didn't draw one.
Okay, just say that it was voted on by Park and Rec, I support,
So,
which would be good that it's at my table tomorrow night before 5 o'clock.
You got
before
it.
meeting.
You got it.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
so this is the next one, that 107 for parks equipment. Years ago, there was an assessment done of our parks and all the equipment was rated. And what kind of met safety standards, needed improvements and things like that. So this is a list of items that I'll look at the target with that 107.
And my answer to this is, before we expand any of the parks, which I think we could do, we should maintain what we have. So I think this is a really good idea.
Great.
One,
Obviously, they haven't been in checking the bleachers and who's on that.
I actually have that, I have that in the budget for buildings and grounds this year. Yeah.
one thing that came up was the skate park equipment. The skate park, what are they called? Ramps and boxes and things. Can we put that on this list? Please.
That's another issue where we have to all get together and just make a decision what we need, because we've talked about it for years. And we hear that they need something down there, and we've never said no to them, but we've never gotten a concrete answer of what they want, and who's gonna make the decision.
There is a list.
Before my time, there was a list that Amanda had sent in, or someone sent in down there.
Devin is here, we can ask.
The curbs, that was the big one.
That was part of the whole redesign.
Yeah, I know, this is more of those.
Hello?
Hi, Devin, thanks. We're wondering, Joe and I seem to remember that you guys had a running list of, skate park equipment, like the boxes and rails that need, replacement.
Yes, so before I was hired, there was a running list of all of the, I think back in I want to say 2020, there was a list made. Um, in the last year, though, we surfaced with Joe some of the other like that list and also some of the other things that were wanted by the skate park community. So for instance, like the boxes were definitely one of them, just like maintaining the wood and such, and then also like a pavement of any of the cracks. And I'm also thinking like I think the bowl was also brought up as well.
But we need to focus on just the equipment down there.
Existing equipment, bringing it up to usable standards,
standards.
safety standards. Could you work on that for us?
Yes, I can totally do that. I can I'll go back and find the previous list, find the
Great.
notes from our meeting, and then I can send it to you guys.
That would be very, very helpful. It feels important to me for that to be added to this list. This has been an ongoing request from the community. And I think, again, highlighting that for this particular request, this is updating things that already exist,
Yep.
bringing them up to safety standards. So if we could prioritize that.
Yeah, and if we're successful with this, we could probably do the equal amount of money next year too.
Great.
So it's not a one and done unless we're told, no.
That we can't do it. Yeah, great. Motion to write a letter to support this
So moved as this list as amended.
list as amended. Second?
Second.
Any more discussion or can we take a vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you so much. Get you a second letter.
You're gonna write it now.
I think Kara is gonna write it down. Here we go. Good? Okay, I know, Tom, you have to leave soon. We're gonna try and move through this relatively quickly.
So we just want to talk about budgets here quick.
Yep,
So capital budget, the item number 3 is what we just talked about trying to start putting some money aside on a yearly basis. And then, it may be successful, making the budget, but my request was in there, so hopefully over the years, we could, a little bit of a kitty to build a park or upgrade a park. We always had the various parks and playground equipment, which is $75,000, we're gonna carry that again next year.
great.
Can I just really quickly, the 150, are you looking to form a stabilization fund? So that it doesn't have to, doesn't have to be carried over, doesn't have to go back to town meeting.
Right.
It's there to be used, perfect.
Right, so, well, capital, we don't have to turn back over unless we're gonna approve.
Depends on the town meeting.
Oh.
I see that you had a request
Yeah,
to carry it over.
yes, that's what we would wanna do,
Yeah.
greatest,
Stabilization.
like the fire truck, like I said, but
Yeah.
last year the fire truck didn't get funded either.
Yes.
So,
No guarantees.
right, exactly.
Waking up.
All right, so, operating budget, basically, I'm reverting back to the budget that existed prior to us being cut. And adding a little bit of an increase to some of the youth services and stuff to cover increases. Parks improvements money was there in the past, lake management, all these was there in the past, waste management was there in the past. The new added item was security and cameras. So,
Because why are we covering it? Why isn't the police department doing some of it?
it's all coming from the same.
I know that, but I just think that.
So it's not gonna matter. It's either gonna go through or not, no matter where it is in the budget.
So-
I think it might sound better coming from us.
Thank you. That we all, it's like sort of a spread cost.
And you know what, I'm sure Paul will support it because they're gonna monitor the cameras for us,
Ever hopeful.
So there's 2 of them well underway, one at Lake Nancy and one Housatonic. We got a lot of the facilities in, and this is, we just covered the operating costs of the cameras. I think the next ones on the list would be Olympia Metals, because we talked about that. There used to be a camera down there, and for some reason it was taken out a few years back, so.
The dog ate.
Great. Questions about this? Or can we move on?
Keep moving.
Okay, excellent. Open meeting paperwork, I think I have from everyone. Julie did hers. Okay, I think I have from everyone. Excellent. If you haven't done the conflict of interest work online, please do that. I will be checking. Okay, any more updates, Joe, that you want to share with us?
So Who's Dome, I had, Carlson Wood Floors go look at the floor. Surprisingly, it's held up well.
Yeah.
Mainly contributed to the insulation and not the grit coming down.
Great,
He recommended, a good heavy duty cleaning, which the Who's Hoop took care of.
great.
So I just share that with you, so next time when they turn around and apply, and we wanna get a user's fee out of it, maybe we could say, hey, look, you took care of this for us, we're gonna let you slide this year, so.
Do
at
we know
least-
what the cost of the heavy duty cleaning is for the floor?
They did it all, I didn't get a price out of Carlson, because as soon as I reached out to Darren. He wasn't getting back to me, Matt reached out to Darren, he responded to Matt, and then Matt said, I'm taking care of it for you. So I don't even have a cost.
Can we get it, can you just find out, I'd just be curious what the number is. I mean,
If he'll tell me.
Yeah,
Come on,
I'm sure we can
Dad.
estimate something.
Yeah,
we
just-
can-
I haven't seen any bills and I paid the bill, so.
Yeah, I think it was all stuff he did with stuff he had.
Cool.
Cool.
The other thing is, Olivia Meadows, we touched on. So in the winter, we close down so you can just drive down and stay in that the first little area and park your car, and walk on the trail and walk in the park or whatever. So you can't go beyond that. There is a gate there now. We'll give people the combination to get in if they need to get to the snack shack, which we've had a few of that.
Have they cleaned that out yet? Cause that,
I believe they did.
okay, cause I knew that was gonna be.
No, I
Going
believe they did. And
I
then
think they did.
football got their equipment out.
Football now.
Okay, good.
Water and stuff.
And so we also closed off between the snack shack and the major league field. And there's a gate there. Some people wanted a code of that gate, and I said no. So,
Right,
it's close enough where they could walk.
get over it.
Well, that's it. Should we just, cause if we start getting it out, I just-
Before you know it,
So-
everybody's got
That's
it.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. At your discretion. Sounds great. Anything else for us, Joe? Okay, I,
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
to Joe? Joe, driving by Memorial Field before we got all the snow, and I think I sent you an email.
yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't get
What's the story with the grass in the infield? It's all brown.
Well, I think it's certain varietals, I asked the question, certain varietals die off in the winter. And they come back, you know, if you even look at like a lot of your lawns and stuff, depending on the variety of grass that's in there. It turns brown and it comes back in spring, there's no, from what I'm being told, there's no issue with it. Share a little bit with you, the company. We still have all their retainage, which is $26,000.
Because part of the field, parts of it in the outfield were fine.
The old grass is fine.
But
Yeah.
closer to the infield and the entire infield
Yeah.
were all brown, and I'm saying, that's never happened before.
Well, it's all, that sod was in last year, and it ground up last year too a little bit, not as much as this year, so, all we can do is watch it, see what it does in the spring.
So if it doesn't come back in the spring,
Well,
then we are protected.
I have to finish up with them because we've paid them everything except the retainage and maybe $200. And they want me to release their bond, and I've been too busy to make the call. I made a call a while ago to the bonding company, and I found their bond was canceled. So I took the appropriate actions with them about canceling their bond, someone canceling their bond without permission from the town, they reinstated the bond. So we need some security
Mhm.
over ourselves, whether it's gonna be retainage or the bond until the end of the warranty period. So right now I have both,
Okay,
okay,
I
so,
like it.
I probably would just assume keep the cash and let the bond go, because trying to make the claim on the bond is very difficult, actually, yeah.
Can you keep us posted on that?
Yeah.
Great. That sound good? Okay.
The water fountain down there, have they been drained?
Everything's been drained.
The day I went by must have been the day the drainage, I went by, I saw all the water in the fountain, so don't tell me they waited too long and it split.
No, everything's been drained. The only thing that probably split is the cemetery in Housatonic, because it's always a guessing game who turns it off. And sometimes we turn it off and Mercer goes back and turns it on. But anyway, so, everything's turned off, and usually there's boxes put over them. The boxes are deteriorated, they gotta make new boxes, so the boxes will be over them at some point.
Thank you. I think we're good with this. Yes? Okay, citizens, including Denise, I see, and James, anybody have something for us? If you want to raise your hands, I don't know, anybody online? Okay,
So may I with Denise online?
Yeah.
So I owe Janice a visit, one, to thank her again for all she did for us last year. And, to get her thoughts on a few ideas for the lifeguard situation this
Good.
coming year. We obviously still have to go out to bid, but there's things that. I want to talk to her about, and make sure we're both on the same page before the bid package goes out.
Great. Can you give us an update on that next month?
I'm not sure I'll have it done by next month,
Okay,
um,
February.
maybe, but by July.
Hi, everyone. Sorry.
On the agenda for February and
Fred,
for.
March is good because nobody's swimming in March anyway.
Great. Hi, Janice, do you have anything to share with us? Did you hear what Joe just said?
Yeah, I heard it. Thank you, everybody. I do have my biggest concern is probably that I saw that you're looking at starting lifeguards in July, which just as we get college kids coming home becomes difficult because they want to work starting Memorial Day. That's when they get out of college. So I just note that it does make it difficult for hiring to start a month later.
So I'm on board with it, Janice, on that. I believe we do have FY 25 money. I kept a little bit left over there to fund that. So I think we're gonna be able to make it work.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be in touch. Thanks so much, everybody.
Yeah, I'll stop over and catch up with you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from home? All right, yes, commissioners, please, Karen.
Three things. Number one, it has come to our attention that somebody thinks that we should do something about Lake Mansfield and warning and ice and everything else. And I have to tell you, after talking with Joe, and I grew up with that, is I don't think the town should be responsible to tell anybody when the ice is safe or not. Reliability.
And there's
Two-
a sign there too. There's a really obvious sign.
Not at the beach side.
Like the boat landing services, yeah.
Okay,
So
hold on one second, Karen, please. Mhm.
I think that the sign ought to go up is that you get on the ice at your own risk. And please be smart. And I think we need to do a little PR on it because I think people can be stupid and they can, take. A kid on a sled is one thing. If you take somebody out in the snowmobile, it's like, what have you lost your mind?
Well, it's 45 degrees, so.
Right, so we're not doing that. So
Great.
that's the first thing.
Cool.
Second thing is, I think what I want to start, and I want the Park and Rec to start it in March and April, is that we need to become much better about the Dutch Reach, which happens in the sense of how you get out of your car on Main Street. You sit, you reach this way, that forces you to look in the mirror, so you're not dooring cyclists all the time. We need to become much more sensitive to people riding bikes in town, because it's happening. And it's also a lot better if we don't have all these vehicles in town. So,
Great, was that 3, 2?
yeah, I forget what the last.
Okay,
one.
great. Thank you.
It's Terry's fault.
Thanks, Terry.
I'm good, thanks.
Paul? Thank you. Good? Good. Thank you guys so much. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.